Robert Hamerton-Kelly, so thank you so much for receiving us in your house. You are a very good friend of Rene Girard, and I was very touched by the way you spoke about him and your friendship. Can you tell us who you are and how you met him, and how this friendship
got started? I met him in 1980 when he came to Stanford. I was at that time Dean of the Chapel and on the faculty in religious studies. I was the minister of the University Church. And I read about him in the university newspaper. And I made contact with him, and we've been friends and collaborators ever since. Since 1987, we've conducted a seminar together here on violence and religion. It's called the Friday Seminar. It meets about once a month, really, through the year. And I think he's talked to me about as much as he's talked to anyone, with the possible exception of Martha.
Yes. Martha, his wife. Yeah.
His wife. I mean, in the last couple of months, maybe the last year or so, we've had 4-hour lunches. I mean, we stay at the restaurant until the people start coming in for dinner. And it's very rich conversation. The fact that I'm a theologian and a religious person, I think means a lot to Rene, because I think his thought has become more and more theological as time goes by. And for the last more than 5 years, most of our conversation in our Friday seminars has been theological conversation about mimetic theory as the anthropology of the cross. We actually only began these seminars in '87 when 3 Danes, that is Danes from Denmark, showed up, and one American named James Williams, who's quite well known because he edited the Girard reader. And they were here to study with him for a quarter, and they asked if he would see them regularly. So I hosted this meeting at the place where I was working at the time, which was the Center for International Security and Arms Control, where I was the senior research scholar. The very week when the Pope's Regensburg speech became controversial, Rene came into our Friday seminar, and the first thing he said, he sat down and had a copy of Pope's speech in front of him. He said, "I don't know why the Pope did not go straight to the Gospels, but made this great detour through reason." The implication being, if you want to bring out the essential non-violence of Christianity over against what is perceived to be the, let me put it mildly, the different attitude that Islam has towards war-making, etc. All you have to do is tell the story of how Christ died without defending himself, how he turned the other cheek. And of course, when Rene speaks like that, that's music to my ears. That's exactly what I think is his tremendous, tremendous contribution to the world of Christian thought anyway. And to that extent, I believe, to thought in general. I believe that Christian theology has been astray for 2,000 years because it took the turn into Greek philosophy. And why did it take the turn into Greek philosophy? Is because it did not have an anthropology of the cross. It could not it could not explain to itself what happened.
Yeah.
But now we can explain to ourselves what happened because of Girard's thought. He's in the train of great Christian thinkers, Calvin, Pascal, Girard. Well, there's only one who I think should be added, and that's Martin Luther, who understood what he called the theology of the cross. The theology of the cross, the anthropology of the cross.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So you have to explain more about Calvin, and because that can be surprising. So, in France, René Girard is known as being Catholic. It has been difficult for him because of that, and you say, okay, is the main thinker is Calvin, Pascal, and so that's very interesting. Can you say more about it?
Well, did he tell you that he was expelled from the lycée in Avignon?
It's
René.
Cahiers de Leon, yeah.
Yeah, he was. Why was he expelled? Because he's a truly independent thinker.
Yeah.
He couldn't put up with less gifted people trying to keep him in line. But there's a sense in which all great thinkers are like that. And when they break out, they break up the cultural agreement. Calvin, Luther, Pascal more or less, Girard certainly. Why does he, well, that's, explain. First of all, the point I made to you before we got on tape here, namely that it was the Free University of Amsterdam, a Calvinist university, that recognized him first and gave him his first doctorate, before the Catholics in Innsbruck realized that they should give him a doctorate too. So I asked myself, did they know something? I think they did. They knew that mimetic theory actually indicts the whole world of violence, reciprocal violence, and scapegoating. Vengeance and scapegoating makes the world go round. Now, that's the only way to understand the cross of Christ. God inserts himself into the reciprocal violence and says basically, if you have to kill somebody, kill me. Sin is defined as violence. Forgiveness is defined as the divine taking upon himself of all the violence of the world. Now, just as soon as you say, I'm not violent, then you have no contact with the God who came to take your violence.
Yeah.
And this is the Calvinist insight. Total sin, total grace.
Yeah.
There's no excuse for anybody, in this whole world, there's no excuse for anybody. However, so everyone is sinful, which is violent. Nobody escapes the reciprocity of vengeance and scapegoating. But God knows that, and he covers it with his love. He says, I know you're a bastard, but I love you. Somebody asked me the other day, well, if you're a Girardian, you must be a pacifist. You must be against a pacifist. You must be against the military. I said, not at all. If you're a Girardian, you should be very much in favor of the military, because they are the ones that are still trying to use violence to control violence.
We have to speak about imitation because you are the father of imitation in a way. What we want is other to understand mimetic theory, but not to repeat it all the time. What do you think?
Well,
just tell me.
Well, understanding mimetic theory can be very effective in individual cases.
Yeah.
And any decent person, knowing what we know, would want to do whatever is possible to reduce the amount of interpersonal violence that takes place. That's not a question. it only becomes acute when you start succumbing to utopian dreams about how you can save the world from violence, how we shouldn't have police forces, and the military is an unmitigatedly bad thing. They actually do a very dirty, difficult work.
They allow you to be peaceful.
They allow, precisely, exactly. They allow us to be peaceful, and mimetic theory understands that too. Nevertheless, within this cocoon of good violence, which of course, according to the theory, is originally religiously structured, we can exercise love and non-violence individually, as long as there's somebody outside the front door to make sure that the bad guys don't get into.
What do you think? Why people should read René Girard? If they are violent, why they should understand mimetic theory? You have to. What can we do?
Look, I believe that first of all, self-knowledge is good.
Yeah.
In and of itself. If you know that this world in which you live is structured by good violence controlling bad violence, you won't be too violent to yourself when you discover that you're part of such a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, most of us are too hard on ourselves anyway. So there's something peaceful about realizing that, man, there's a whole lot of this that I really am not personally responsible for. I'm not such a bad person. Well, I'm a bad person, but everybody else is a bad person. We don't have any...
Yeah.
So mimetic theory helps you to understand yourself. It helps you to understand how society works. In English, first use of the scapegoat was in Tyndall's translation of the Bible in the 16th century, where he translated the Leviticus text.
Yeah.
But then the next use of the term scapegoat in English was in 1824. And then by the end of the 19th century, as a result of Fraser, the scapegoat was everywhere, excepting in England. Or Scotland, excepting where Fraser was. Scapegoating was something that the savages did. But of course, we didn't. So they still had a way to go before it became evident that we were doing it too, and that actually, as it turns out, it's one of the keys to human behavior. I once said to him, I said, Rene, the one thing I have to thank you for is rescuing me from terminal academic boredom.
That's good.
I mean, the difference it has made my life for more than 20 years now is it makes me feel that I'm actually in touch with reality. That what I think, what I write, is real. So it's been a remarkable personal gift to me. And here I am now in my twilight years, and they're called the golden years in the PR of this country. Yeah. And they really are golden, not only because, thank God, I'm healthy and I have enough resources not to worry, but because I have known Rene, and I was smart enough to listen to him, pay attention.